Hello everyone, I'm Sean McKinley, International Director of Children's Ministries for the Church of God of Prophecy, and I want to thank you for joining us today for this Facebook Live. I am so pleased and honored to have, one of my office mates here,
Yes.
Dr. Michael Hernandez with us. Dr. Hernandez is the Director of Accredited Ministries Development here for the Church of God of Prophecy. They just recently opened our education arm, which is Spirit and Life Seminary, so it's been an exciting time. And
Yes,
Michael's been around for a long time, but what many of you may not know is that Michael has a background in serving as a therapist for families and for children. So, Michael, before we get started here, why don't you just mention a little bit about what your experiences have been?
Sure. So my experience mainly started in inpatient mental health. That's where I first started working with populations who were dealing with psychosis and or substance abuse issues. But then after that, much to my surprise, the Lord opened a door for me to provide actual outpatient therapy. What that means is where you actually meet in an office setting with children and teenagers and couples. And so I had the opportunity, believe it or not, the majority of my clients were actually children.
Okay.
And children who were dealing with specific issues related to the Department of Children's Services. And so that's how I mainly got a lot of experience dealing with children. I learned a lot through that, and I continue to learn a lot because my wife is also a school teacher, and she has a lot to teach me as well,
Sure.
just through her experience.
Sure.
And so that combined experience has really just allowed us to learn a lot.
Sure, and I tease Michael sometimes that he's my in-house therapist. I'll come visit his office quite a bit, and we'll visit about issues. So we're really grateful that Michael has given us time out of his schedule to talk to us about the pressing issue of the hour.
Yes.
Everywhere we turn, of course, our lives have been interrupted really because of the coronavirus. It's a global pandemic.
Yes.
And we're experiencing a lot of challenges all around the world. And so I wanted to invite Michael here specifically to speak to those who serve as children's ministers, but also to parents, grandparents, and others who, anybody who cares about kids. So Michael, why don't we just jump in here with a few questions for you, and people may have questions that they'll comment, and we'll try to answer those later or perhaps off camera. So again, thank you for being here. Feel free to ask your questions in the comment section of this Facebook Live. So Michael, what are, just to begin with, some general tips that you have for families who are watching and their lives have been turned upside down?
Sure. There are three things that I could say. The first one is take a balanced approach, and more importantly, according to your child's age. Each child, according to their age, learns at different levels, is able to comprehend different types of concepts. And so take note of that. You're not going to take a 5-year-old and start to tell them all about how it's a pandemic. And using that kind of terminology, they're just not going to understand. So sit them down, make sure it's at their level. And for example, you might take a child that in and just say, hey, there are a lot of people that are getting sick right now, so we're making sure that we're washing our hands and making sure that we do these certain things so that we stay clean and stay healthy. And then again, if you're talking to someone who's closer to 7 through 9, you can actually have a real conversation about it. Don't go into too much detail. They're not going to care about it. They're not going to process it or keep it. But the main thing they need to know at that age level is the importance of hygiene and how this is a serious matter, but we're going to be okay. Children who are above that, again, preteen, teenagers, they're going to be able to understand a lot more as far as the complexity of what this virus is. Allow them the opportunity to ask questions and be ready to answer their questions. You don't want them to seek other sources by which they can have those questions answered. So that's be the first thing I'd say, is taking a balanced approach. The second thing is enjoy the time that you have with your family. It's okay to enjoy that time together with your children. Again, it's a very serious time for most families, and for many families who are being affected financially, as well as more importantly through their physical needs, and for those who are sick, it's a major issue. But again, just keep a balanced approach between that, but make room for fun. That's a good thing. The third thing is develop a set schedule for your children. Children thrive on consistency. They thrive on structure. And you know this as a father of 3 and children ministries. For you parents out there or teachers, I know you will agree with me. My wife will give me a big star for that one, because structure is all too important. So develop structure in your home. Allow opportunities for them to have time for chores, as well as for time to do fun things together, time for learning. For those of you for whom your school district has allowed the opportunity to be able to develop some kind of structured learning online or by other means, but develop a schedule for them so things don't seem chaotic. Your home does not have to mirror the way things are
Sure.
out in the world.
Absolutely.
Develop that structure for your
No,
child.
that's a great word, great reminder. Now, we know that children are different. They're
Mhm.
not all the same.
Mhm.
But sort of in your experience working with children who have had issues in the past,
Mhm.
what are some of the feelings that our children might be struggling with and we may not even know it?
Yes. There are two feelings that are related to anxiety. The first one is confusion, the second one is fear. Confusion is the feeling that they just don't know what's going on. Fear is actual them worrying over probably their health, worry over their parents, whether or not they're going to get sick, worry over what's going to happen to their classmates, things like that. But they're both related to anxiety. Look out for those two feelings, which are very much related to anxiety. Look for them, but find the opportunity to teach your children about these feelings as well. Allow them the opportunity to be open to discussing how they feel and be ready to process those feelings with them. Remember, feelings are okay, but our reactions to those feelings, depending on whether or not they're positive ways of reacting or negative ways, you may need to shape those actions so that they engage in ways to address those feelings in appropriate ways.
Now, I know, I'm a father of three. So my children, all three of them are different ages and different phases of life, and they are processing this completely different.
Exactly.
And so I know my oldest daughter, who's very connected to technology, is getting her information from a lot of different sources.
Yes.
So it is important that we talk to our kids. We were talking about that a little bit ago.
Mhm.
We need to engage in these conversations with our kids.
That's right.
So as we begin our discussions with them, how should we really approach this discussion? And are there things that you would suggest to those who are watching that really we shouldn't talk about with our kids?
Yes, great question. First, I can't overstate enough, communicate with your children. Above all, communicate. Leave the door open for them to ask questions. Leave the door open for them to come to you at any point. Now, as far as what things they should be or shouldn't be communicating about, avoid talking too much about the coronavirus. The reason we don't want to do that is because they're being bombarded from every way. You do not want your children to live in fear. God does not want us to live in fear because He has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And that's what we want to reinforce in our children's lives. The ability for them to encounter fear, but not be run by it, not be managed by it, not be ruled by it in any way. So talk to them about it, but don't make too big a deal. Also, when we're talking about news, don't keep the TV on 24/7, folks. You're going to scare your children to death. A good rule of thumb, and actually this was my wife's idea, she said, treat the news the way your parents did when you were a child. And by that, when did the news used to come on back in the day? Either early in the morning or late at night. And so look at it that way. Your children do not need to be exposed to that 24/7 all through the day in which they're usually moving or eating or playing. Keep that for yourself, and then you decide what kinds of information they need to know and how to disseminate that to them and process it with them.
I know, my own children, their school system just closed for a few weeks.
Yes.
And right now, there's a lot of excitement,
Yes,
it's
there
kind
is,
of like when
yes.
we have a day off from, in our area because of weather, snow or something. So they're really excited and enjoying this, but I suspect over the next few weeks, this is really going to begin to process. Wait, life is different, things are changing.
Yes.
And with change sometimes comes fear. That's one of, I know, my greatest concerns about my kids, that they would be afraid during this time.
Yes.
So if we have a child that is struggling with fear about COVID-19, how can we help them cope or overcome those fears?
Sure. The most important thing you can do is encourage them to share about those fears, to share what they're feeling, why, and what is going on in their minds. That's reinforcing that in their lives. Then reassure your child that everything is going to be okay. We as Christians believe we place our trust in God. And so we need to teach that to our children. Maybe encouraging them to learn a specific Bible scripture, such as the one that we've just quoted and talked about, or others, that will reassure them and bring peace and comfort to them rather than fear in their lives. But the most important thing I'd say is talk to them about it.
Sure, absolutely. And then again, we know that this really is going to be a period of prolonged disruption for most of our lives.
Yes.
So how do we know if our child moves beyond kind of that basic fear that maybe
Mhm.
most kids will experience, and it
Mhm.
really creeps into something a little more dangerous, maybe
Yes.
anxiety, and
Yes.
how can we help them manage their anxiety?
Yes. Great question. The main way that you'll know that your child is being affected by this in a harmful way is the way that it affects their basic needs. And so by that I mean lack of appetite, looking out for lack of sleep, looking out for lack of confidence that they are loved and cared for. Look for those three things. If your child is having a hard time sleeping at night or they're having nightmares, again, those are red flags for you to be aware of. Be aware of it, address it, and talk to your child about it, and then challenge those negative fears, those harmful fears that are trying to ingrain themselves in your child's life. But look out for those three main things.
Okay, excellent. Well, I really appreciate this very quick discussion that we've had with Dr. Hernandez, but I think it's been very helpful. We know that there are a lot of conversations to be had with our kids right now.
Absolutely.
And so I think it is important that we just begin having those discussions and see how they're processing this, no matter where you live.
Yes.
This is kind of something we're all going through together
Yes.
around the world
Yes, we are.
and combating. And so the Children's Ministry website, if you visit the site kogop.org/children, we have a blog there that actually touches on many of these same ideas that you have shared
Great.
about engaging our kids with discussions and then listening to them and then really coaching them on what we need to do during this time period.
Yes.
Basic things like washing our hands, how do we
Yes.
cough, how do we sneeze, explaining that they may not be able to visit their grandparents for a few days if they live near them or something. So I encourage you to go check out that blog, which is again at cogop.org/children. This video will be available and is on demand after we complete this session. So share it with your family and with others who might be interested in what Dr. Hernandez has shared. I want to quickly, before we dismiss, share about a few best practices in children's ministry. Just want to hit on these. I think it's important as children's ministers that we realize one of the basic needs that our families have that we can serve is safety. We a lot of times think about the spiritual aspects of our children's ministry, but really most families, when they come to your ministry in this day and age, want to know that their kids are safe. So take this opportunity to kind of reboot if you don't have policies and procedures that ensure that kids are safe. So plan now and begin to communicate that with your families. If your church has been suspended, perhaps services have been suspended, let them know when they come back the measures you're taking to ensure that their kids will be well. These include policies like about hygiene, things like coughing, frequent hand washing, using hand sanitizer. Make sure the kids in your ministry are using hand sanitizer when they arrive to your ministry, throughout your ministry times, especially if they're doing something messy, dirty, or handling food. And then, of course, when they leave, everybody should sanitize their hands again. These are procedures that should have been in place anyway, but we are certainly becoming more aware of them now. And then also, do you have a policy? Do you have procedures about cleaning? When are you in our ministry? We surface clean and use Lysol spray every session. Every Sunday when the kids leave, we are cleaning our areas to make sure they're clean, and that's just standard operating procedure. But then also, how often are you deep cleaning your ministry areas? Things like the walls, the floors, and really getting into the crevices in your areas. You want to have a policy or a procedure for that as well. Might be a good time to also restock things like your first aid kit. Make sure that you have all the supplies that you need so that when the kids come back, you can say, we are a totally safe zone and we are ready for you.
That's right.
And I want to encourage you, take advantage of this moment. If your church is not meeting, it's a great opportunity to go in and do some of that cleaning. When families come back, they're going to want to know that you have done that hard work. So if your church, I know several of our local ministries are not meeting for the next couple of weeks. It's a great opportunity to go in and to clean all of those surfaces. I want to mention again the blog, kogop.org/children. There is a blog there about talking to your kids about coronavirus, but on that blog we also have some notes for children's ministry, and there's an excellent checklist there that covers a lot of areas of your ministry. You might download that as you're cleaning your ministry and kind of check off every area to make sure you've done everything that needs to be done. And then also, as you're thinking about your policies, think about what policies do I have pertaining to the illness of my volunteer staff and the children. If a child becomes ill during children's ministry, they really should be separated immediately from the rest of the kids and return to their parent or their guardian. But also, and we hate to think about this, we need to reiterate our wellness policy as it relates to our staff. You know, they really, if they're sick, we need to have some plans and contingencies in place so that they don't feel like they have to come in and have to serve the kids. They need to stay home in this time. Again, check out our blog. I'm also excited because many of you are, your churches are suspending services. We are excited that beginning tomorrow, on Wednesday, March 18th, Children's Ministry is providing a weekly children's lesson that you can do with your kids. It's available in English, Spanish, and French. There'll be a different lesson each week, all centering around this idea of trust and fear and all of these issues that kids might be dealing with now. You might choose to do that lesson with your kids on Sunday morning in place of service if it's been canceled, or you might spread the activities out throughout the week. But I think it's important that as Michael shared, our families are together. It might be forced in this hour, but let's embrace it, okay?
Exactly.
And Children's Ministries really believes that discipleship should begin in the home anyway.
Yes.
So parents, I want to invite you to take this opportunity to really kind of lean into those topics of fear and trust and talk to your kids, and you can use these lessons to help you begin those discussions. Children's ministers share these with the parents in your ministry so that they can really go on this journey with us again for the next 8 weeks. Hopefully, we'll be on the downward side of this whole thing in 8 weeks, but who knows?
Yeah.
But I can guarantee you, if you are having those discussions in your home, your kids, their trust and their faith will have been built over this 8-week period. So please, you can again get that information at kogop.org/children. I want to mention tonight we have a free webinar for children's ministers. We've got some wonderful speakers coming up. Joy Hensley will be sharing, Matt Morgan and Dr. Shelley Malia. It's some great information that you'll want to share. So again, invite those who serve with you in children's ministry to join us tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern here on Facebook or on the website. In just a few moments at 3 p.m., Leadership Development and Discipleship Ministries will be doing a webinar all about their new ministerial development program. So hop on over to facebook.com/Kogop and you can hear all the wonderful things that they have prepared. It's going to be a significant program that we've been able to kind of watch develop over the last year. So we're excited about the launch of it coming up in April. So again, I want to thank Dr. Michael Hernandez for being here with us. Are we doing this sort of
That's
thing?
right.
We're not shaking, maybe not even a fist bump, and we're going to quickly social distance after
That's
this,
right.
But I do want to thank him for being here and sharing his expertise with us. If you have questions, pop those in the comments. We'll be happy to try to get an answer for you. God bless you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we're going to get through this together.
Amen.
God bless you.